do. We're going to jump sports. We're going to go to UFC go to MMA, talk about UFC 249. The odds are out for 249. It's on May 9th. I'm only going to really talk about the main card.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to point out the underdog on the main card that I think has the best chance to come through for somebody that's willing to take a little bit of a risk. Because for the most part, the favorites on the main card are tough to go against. Every once in a while, you see something, you're like, I don't know about that guy. I think, or this girl, she's maybe favored, and I'm not sure this is a good idea. But there's actually two in particular that I think you really need to take a look at. And Dominick Cruz is a plus 200 underdog against Henry Cejudo in the co-main event. Essentially, Dominick Cruz is coming off a huge layoff. He's been riddled by injuries throughout his career. Everybody knows he is one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. I think most people would consider him a top 10 to 15 mixed martial artist in the history of the sport. But it's always been about injuries. But I think that first of all, Henry Cejudo is not a natural bantamweight. He fought at flyweight originally. Of course, yes, he did defeat TJ Dillashaw to win the bantamweight title. But there's a size issue from a length standpoint. And when we've seen Henry Cejudo have problems, which is against Demetrius Johnson, we're talking about athletic movers who can go in and out, can stick, and guys who can either avoid being taken down or somewhat handle themselves once they're taken down. Now, if you know anything about Dominick Cruz, you know that Dominick Cruz is extremely difficult to be taken down, very difficult to be taken down. And I don't know that even if we're talking about what could be a compromised Dominick Cruz, could be. Everybody knows that. But if we are suspecting that Dominick Cruz is anywhere close to what he normally is, I think this is a fight that is contested on the feet. And with the amount of movement that we generally see from Dominick Cruz, and of course, this entire card is taking place under some different sorts of circumstances. We don't know what the conditioning is going to be like for either guy. But this is one to keep an eye on.
Well, maybe the odds makers do.
Right. Maybe they do.
Maybe the folks at betonline.ag know something that we don't know.
Because these odds definitely do come from betonline.ag, and they are saying this. But plus 200?
Bet 100 to win 200. That's great line value.
That seems pretty steep.
Especially if you think that there's a good possibility that it can happen.
I do. I think that it's...
Now, what is the favorite sitting at?
The favorite, Henry Cejudo, is at minus 235.
Interesting. So he's a pretty good favorite, but the underdog bet is also very intriguing.
Yes, I like Dominick Cruz for plus 200. I really do. So that's something that I would consider for sure. The other one that I would consider is the main event. Not nearly as big of a gap. Justin Gaethje's a plus 150, underdog. The one thing about Tony Ferguson is that he's generally there to be hit. He likes the war. He embraces the war. It's not always necessarily the smartest fight, but he's going to fight it. And he leans on his conditioning. He leans on his durability. But Justin Gaethje is also not one that's difficult to hit, but he's a come forward, break you down from the base or foundation up sort of a fighter. And this fight is going to be, I can't imagine it not being action packed. These guys just kind of don't know any other way to fight. But I don't know that Tony can afford to allow himself to be touched as much as he generally allows himself to be touched in most fights, and win this fight the way he generally does. If Justin Gaethje hurts him, as we've seen Tony Ferguson days cut, staggered before, I don't know that he has that ability to come back against Justin Gaethje in this way. And we're also talking about somebody in Tony Ferguson who is experiencing a long layoff. He's also been injured several times. We really don't know which Tony Ferguson that we're going to get. We can talk about the Tony Ferguson of, throughout his entire career, this huge winning streak that he's on, but he's also aging, and he's also experiencing a big layoff in addition to the pandemic. So that's another one I advise you to watch. Make sure that you take a look at that. It's plus 150 for Justin Gaethje, according to Bet Online. And those are the two underdogs on the main card that I advise most people to pay most attention to. That if I was a betting guy and I'm going to put something down on an underdog on the main card, it will be those two. One of those two guys, if not both.
I love it. Brian Mazique, best bets.
That's what I got. It's a great card though. Overall, it's just a fantastic card. Even the quote unquote early prelims, right. Charles Rosa against Bryce Mitchell, Sam Alvey against Ryan Spann, Nico Price against Vicente Luque. Uriah Hall against Jacare. There really is not a dead spot on this card. It really isn't.
So the female fight was pulled from this one?
Rose Namajunas was pulled off the card, and so also was Amanda Nunes. Maybe Amanda Nunes will be added to like the May 13th and the May 16th.
Right, that's what I was going to ask. Sure. Interesting.
They haven't announced anything for those cards as of yet.
Right.
And there are no odds posted for those cards. The only odds that are posted for either the 13th or the 16th card is Dustin Poirier against Daniel Hooker. Dustin Poirier is a minus 165 favorite for that. But that's the only one. And that event is being called UFC on ESPN Plus 33. So we will see. Can't wait, though. I am not going to lie. I cannot wait.